Hey everyone, One Big Boss here, and welcome back to another episode of New to Retro Reviews, where today we are celebrating 20 years of this great game, Ninja Gaiden. This came out 20 years ago to the OG Xbox, one of my favorite consoles of all time, and I could not put this game down when it came out. I have obviously grown up playing the OG NES era games of Ninja Gaiden, and yes, they're tough. They're unfair, but they were what we had back then, and they're still legendary in so many ways. So, is this game just as legendary? Hell yeah, it is! This is honestly a game that it took so many hours of my life back in the day. If I ever made a top 10 list of games that just took hours away from me, I would feel that this game would probably be it, because, or maybe the later versions of it like Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden Sigma. But this specific game really did a lot of things differently than other action games, and to be honest, it felt like it controlled better than a lot of action games around that time. I'm sorry, it just felt like that. I'm not saying that it is true, but for me personally, that's how I felt, and I just couldn't put the game down. It just had me hooked. Every time I wanted to stop, I'm just like, no, the action's keeping me in. I gotta keep going. I'm on a roll with this. And it just means a lot to me. The whole franchise does in general, whether it's Ninja Gaiden or DOA and the crossovers that come between them and everything. There's just something magical about them, something that you really just get right down to and absolutely love. And to be honest, I'm kind of hoping in the future, if Ninja Gaiden ever does get resurrected, we get a Ninja Gaiden game that has like a 2-player co-op something, or even like you could fight your friends as your homemade ninja or something like that. That'd be pretty cool, right? But either way, I think it's time that we go back to the past and really delve deep into what makes this game so great, so memorable, and what it did for action games back in the day. With that being said, guys, here is the review. Look back at Ninja Gaiden for the OG Xbox. Let's go. Believe it or not, the development for Ninja Gaiden, though released in 2004, was originally started by Team Ninja in 1999 and was labeled, at the time, Next Generation Ninja Gaiden Project, and was slated to be on the Sega Naomi arcade boards. And if that name sounds familiar, well, it should, because that's the board that handled games like House of the Dead 2, Crazy Taxi, Dead or Alive 2, Power Stone, and of course, my personal favorite, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But then things changed and the team decided to aim for the Dreamcast instead. And to me, being a massive fan of the Dreamcast, would have loved to have seen what this game would have been like and could have been like on the Dreamcast back in the day. But sadly, the Dreamcast was not long for this world due to the Dreamcast ending its production around 2001. With more options to go to, the team decided to aim at Sony for the launch of their new system, the PlayStation 2. And this makes sense to go that route since the PS1 shocked people worldwide when it came out onto the market and delivered some powerhouse titles in its run. And let's face it, the PS2 was no slouch when it came out back in the day. But eventually, this idea was passed on as the big daddy of Team Ninja himself, Itagaki, wanted to go with what Microsoft was planning with the Xbox, as the software dev kits seemed to fit more in what they needed. And so eventually, time passed and Ninja Gaiden, a franchise known for being in the arcades and on the Nintendo consoles, found its home on the Xbox and began something truly outstanding. The beginnings were interesting enough, but the actual development of the game was something Itagaki and the team took seriously, as they had never worked on an action game before. But they were up for the challenge, as Itagaki wanted to challenge players and not hold their hand with this game. And, well, the game was tough, but fair. Ninja Gaiden these days gets a rap for being a harsh and a hard game, but it's in a way where you have to step back and go, oh, okay, I messed up here. Now I know what to do next time. It's not hard for the sake of being hard. It's kind of, well, a learning experience, I guess, if you really want to get down to it. Itagaki and team made it in a way that you could get frustrated, but at the same time, it felt fair, which is a smart game design right there. Team Ninja even went as far as to hire real martial artists to capture everything they did, versus just doing motion capture that they directly would input into the game. Everything the team put into this really shows, from the way its world looks, the graphics, its combat. Ninja Gaiden is a very unique experience that, while there are other games out there that are action games, I think it's truly a unique and different experience from other ones. And to be fair, isn't that what we want in games? We don't want the same thing, We want things that are similar that'll pique our interest, but ultimately we also want something that's a little bit different. Kind of a hard plate to juggle right there, but I think a lot of people understand what I'm trying to get at. According to Itagaki himself, the world of Ninja Gaiden shares itself in the world of the NES games and that of the Dead or Alive games, which makes sense, given that some of the characters from DOA show up in the Ninja Gaiden games and vice versa, which makes the Xbox series of Ninja Gaiden games a prequel to the NES era, which makes sense in some ways, given what happens to Ryu's father in the first game, but we also see Ryu in other Ninja Gaiden games from the Xbox era as well. With that being said, this game also takes place 2 years before the events of the first Dead or Alive game. It's all connected. The story begins with Ryu Hayabusa, the modern-day super ninja, going through the mountains of Japan and eventually meeting up with his uncle and sparring with him in his ninja hideout. Soon after, Ayane from the DOA games arrived to inform Mirai that the Hayabusa village has been attacked. With Joe Hayabusa, Ryu's father, training in the wilderness, the young Ryu fights his way back to the village only to be met with various enemies and eventually come face to face with a samurai clad in black armor named Doku, who essentially one-shots Ryu, steals the dreaded Dark Dragon Blade, and burns the village to the ground. Ryu eventually recovers and heads to the city of Tyron to retrieve the Dark Dragon Blade before its true power can be released and defeat the Holy Vigor Emperor. You know, typical ninja stuff. No biggie, right? Ninja Gaiden is a third-person action-adventure game in the styles of games like Devil May Cry and God of War. But unlike those games, Ninja Gaiden has a very fluid style of gameplay mechanics. Since it's an action game, it's, well, not your typical kind of ninja game where you'd be sneaking around and using tools for stealth and kills from the shadow. Oh no, this game is anything but that. Stealth, well, it's not for this game. You're going to use every weapon at your disposal to take enemies down. And boy, do you get the ninja tools to get the job done. Ryu doesn't have any martial arts moves per se. Unlike in DOA, he uses swords, nunchucks, and any other weapons he can get his hands on to put the beat down on the enemies. Most swords, like the Dragon Sword, is what you'll be using for most of the adventure. It's an all-around weapon that can be upgraded in the shop to unlock more moves, and has a good variety in them to get the job done. Heavier swords like the giant gold one lacks in speed and combos, but makes up for destroying virtually whatever it hits. There's also my personal favorite, the Vigorogian Flails, which when updated turns you into an advertisement for slicing and dicing fiends and enemies that come your way. Fast and damaging. This weapon is great, and you can kind of cheese with this, and I'll get into that a little bit later in the video. The mechanics also give you other moves like the legendary Izuna drop that, after a combo, you finish off the enemy with a devastating slam to the ground, and, well, you'll damage enemies nearby as well. This is a very effective move that you should get used to using. You get a parry/reversal move as well. I don't really use them too much, but when you do use them, they're satisfying as hell. However, as a veteran of these games, I'm going to tell you right now, you better learn how to use these things if you're going to play the harder difficulties. Trust me on this. Ryu also has an ultimate technique that he can use in almost every one of his weapons. You can do this by charging up and absorbing the essence from enemies he's defeated. Yellow is the game's currency, blue refills life, and red refills ninpo. This gives the players different ways to approach a battle. Do you want to wipe out all the enemies that are around you, or grab that blue orb to help save you if you are low on health or potions? It's a great way to give the player different options on how to handle a fight, and, well, keeps the fast-paced situation going because, well, that's what this game's all about, is quick reflexes and quick timing and quick thinking. So, yeah, it's a great move, but charging up does take some time and can leave you wide open. So, yeah, if you're low on health, you got to be careful because enemies in this game do serious damage. Okay, with all the technical stuff out of the way and the background of the game, you're probably wondering, well, what's the good of this game and what's the bad? There's got to be some, right? And, well, generally with every game, yeah, there is some good and there is some bad. And, well, as usual, we'll start off with the bad to save the good for the ending. So the bad of Ninja Gaiden isn't really one that is a game changer, but more so a bit of an annoyance. You know, the camera work can be tough at times, but in later versions of the game, you have a lot more freedom with it. It does make some platforming a bit difficult, and group battles might make you misstep or mess up a combo, but ultimately, it's nothing that's really game-breaking, and I think maybe after an hour or so, you won't even notice it or just learn to adapt to it. But I will say one thing that I remember me and my pals talking about back in the day, and that was us wanting a lock-on option. Should have been in the game, honestly. I really wish this is something that they implicated, because sometimes you feel you aren't going after the right enemy because of something called a soft lock that's been implicated into this game. It's not bad, but I think to focus one's attention to one enemy may have been a good idea. Although Itagaki stated he wanted to challenge people and not necessarily hold your hand, which is why you don't get a lot of Ninpo in the original game to cheese and lock onto enemies. But I think for bosses at least, it would have been nice to have had that option, because in the OG Ninja Gaiden, this one that we're talking about right now, they didn't have supporting enemies for the bosses to come out and attack you with or anything. So one-on-one would have been great, because sometimes the controls and camera do mess up with the soft lock. Again, it's nothing really that bad. It doesn't really diminish your experience overall. It's just really a minor nitpick. But these are things that, you know, because it's a review or a retrospective or however you want to say it, it's kind of something that I feel that needs to be talked about. However, this one, I think, is a flaw in the game that was thankfully corrected in later versions. But in this one, you can't access healing items on the fly. You have to press start, and for me, yeah, it might give you a little break from the battle, but I also think it interrupts the flow of the battle. You want things to be smooth and flowing and battle never breaking, right? This is that kind of a game, and it hurts. Same goes for the weapons and sub-weapons. You'll be doing a lot of this throughout the game. It's kind of a pain. Stopping, switching to a new weapon. This is stuff that really is quite a pain, and to me, I don't know, maybe the system couldn't handle it back in the day. It'd have been nice if, you know, we had that option, but we didn't. And we did get it in later versions, but one of the things even in the later versions, like Ninja Gaiden Sigma, well, you don't even get to access the weapons. This is kind of something that I feel maybe they could have done. I don't know if they tried it back in the day. I couldn't find anything when I was looking things up about this game, but a few years later, Devil May Cry 3 was able to achieve this on the same system. Well, not the same system, but same generation. So I think that's kind of what stops Ninja Gaiden from really being a insane combat game. It already is by itself, mind you, but I think this breaks the pace, and that's something you just don't want in an action game like this, right? Also, I guess if we want to get down to the nitty-gritty from other things, the story to Ninja Gaiden really isn't much of one. It just tells of fiends and an old world, and that the blood of the fiends runs through everyone, which is something that you find out throughout the game. But most of the characters that you come across are pretty stoic and have nothing to do. Ryu is literally just a blank slate this entire game. I mean, I know he's supposed to be a calm and composed character, but he's very quiet to the point that he's boring. This is something that's fixed in things like Ninja Gaiden 2 and Ninja Gaiden 3, and, you know, I really love him in Ninja Gaiden 2 and Ninja Gaiden 3. He's way more of a character, but he's just kind of a blank slate. A lot of the other characters, even like Ayane and Mirai, they just don't have much to them. Honestly, it's Rachel and Gamoth that seem to have the most, and yeah, it doesn't really impact you when scenes happen in this game. I mean, certain characters that Ryu comes across and certain revelations that happens, Ryu's just like, meh, whatever. It happened. You know, it's just, I don't know, a small nitpick there, but it's something that I do think that could have helped the game just push a little bit more, maybe more background and story, which you can find throughout the game. And there is actual really interesting lore to Ninja Gaiden in the world that's being created in this generation of Ninja Gaiden and DOA video games kind of stuff. So please check that out if you haven't. But again, small nitpick, but I think something that would have done a little bit better, something that served the later games very well. And the final issue I have is these ghost fish. You come across these creatures later in the game, and this is where you can cheese the game by putting on an armband that increases the amount of essence you absorb, giving you a faster way to save up for upgrading and buying weapons. This takes away a big chunk of what I think makes the game special. Even though on a harder mode, I guess you could do this, but you actually get less space to carry recovery items. It's something to think about when you play harder difficulties. It's kind of minor, and people will probably become frustrated with fighting these things, but I just felt that I had to mention it because you can easily just Vigor Rugian flail all these creatures or just use Ninpo and there's going to be tons of blue and yellow essences everywhere, and you're going to be able to refill the red ones easily because those pop up against these things too. It's just something that I wish they would have fixed back in the day when this game was made, and yeah, I don't know. It's just an easy way to break the game, but I mean, if you're in the hurry to beat the game or it's a little tough, well, I just gave newcomers a way to get ahead of the game, I guess. Okay, with the bad out of the way, let's talk about the good because there's plenty of it. First off, when you enter the city of Tyron, you really feel like you're a tourist because you don't really know where anything is, and you have to find keys and do other missions to unlock areas of the city. Sometimes you'll get a key or a weapon and be like, oh, I remember that locked gate from the beginning. Much like walking throughout a city in real life, the more you go through Tyron, the more you'll feel that you're at home, you start to understand the areas, and believe me, there's tons of areas to explore besides the streets, like Han's Bar, the military train yard, which, due to some annoying machines and platforming in this area, it still irks me to this day. But you can even go into the underground aqueducts and areas starting to connect more and more. Remember the area of the underground where you fought that giant dinosaur and it opened up a brand new area after you beat him? Well, later on, the chamber floods and takes you to other places you were not able to get to before. It's pretty good level design, and that makes me appreciate Ninja Gaiden as it makes me feel like I'm kind of playing Resident Evil in a way, right? Trying to get keys and items to unlock certain doors and come back to areas that I may have forgotten about but had seen originally when I started playing the game. The combat. I can drool over this combat all damn day because 20 years later, it's still absolutely amazing. The combat stands as some of the best from an action game of its time. It's fluid and much smoother than something like Devil May Cry. And that's not me mocking DMC because I love Devil May Cry and pretty much anything from Capcom. But Ryu feels like a ninja with his controls. Fast, reliable, and on point when you move with him. You see, Dante always felt a bit, well, stiff with his controls. Maybe it was the early PS2 design flaw or something, or maybe that's just something they were going for with the game. But it kind of kept going throughout the series where Ryu, in his own series, just gets better and better to control on his own. Boss battles are fantastic because you can't really approach them in the same way you do normal enemies throughout the areas of the game that you visit. It's a new boss, and, well, okay, they pull something from the Mega Man playbook, and some bosses, they return later on and you have to fight them. But even so, you still have to learn the boss's strengths and weaknesses, and it feels different than other combat throughout the game. You're given more of a reason to keep playing and learning these new enemies that aren't just small regular enemies on the field. Trying out all the weapons and mastering each one isn't boring, and I feel they give you a good array of weapons to unlock and go forward with in this game. Everyone's got a favorite or a different style and one weapon to use, and one of them I want to talk about is the unlabored flawlessness, or unlabored flawless. I don't know. I can't read. But this weapon, it's a beast of a weapon, and it's the most expensive weapon to upgrade. You might actually not be able to do it during your first run unless you farm, like I told you how to do with the yellow essences and the bonefish. Because when your health gets low enough, the wording on the sword, it glows and can virtually wreck any enemy with this weapon. But there is a trade-off with having your life so dangerously low. You can get hit by an enemy and you're done. You're dead. Because you got to remember, this game, the enemies, even regular enemies, will hit like a truck. So you got to make sure that you find all those hidden jewels to increase your life or the lives of 1,000 gods, because you're going to need it. But this weapon, it's really fun to use. And in later Ninja Gaiden games, when you get it to go up against bigger, better bosses and much tougher bosses, it's definitely a weapon that you're going to want to have on you and learn how to use. Because again, the trade-off of having low health and making you think, oh man, I can't mess this up. That's the beauty of this game, or just one of the many beauties of Ninja Gaiden. Honestly, the graphics of Ninja Gaiden still hold up today. If you pop this game, or especially, well, technically the only one you can pop into a newer Xbox is Ninja Gaiden Black, the graphics are absolutely insane. They just look so beautiful, and whether it's the mountain areas of the Ninja Fortress, or the city of Tyron, or the aqueducts, or even the underwater levels, as much as I don't really care for them, they're still cool looking, right? There is something that this game does very well. It's really nice to explore a lot of these areas, check them out, and do these puzzles. I know I said that this game should be all about action and fast pace, but when it breaks at least for you to find certain things to go back to or help you advance in another area, I think it works because when that happens, the action isn't too far away, so I don't think it necessarily slows the game down, and the game is just pretty. And the enemies, oh my god, the variety of enemies this game throws at you. And I'm not talking about the bosses that are here, although some of the bosses are kind of insane, whether it's giant helicopters or giant squid tentacle hentai monsters or whatever. They're just, everything about this game just screams excellence in one way or another. You know, this is something that I truly loved, that the enemies gave me a challenge. They weren't all the same. They were all different. They had their own set of moves. And the greatest thing about it is they don't hold back. Enemies don't just run and cower, or because you're far off the screen, they're not really going to come to you. No, these guys, especially like ones in the military and the fiend military type creatures you come across later on, they come at you with everything they got. And it's incredible. It keeps that action going, and it kind of doesn't give you a little breathing room, because you could be walking along in certain areas of the city and all of a sudden just get ambushed by either ninjas, or you're going to get attacked by fiends. That is what truly makes this game great, is that everything is always around the corner, and enemies do not give a damn about how big your life bar is, because they will take that life from you very easily. And to be honest, that is what is so nail-bitingly amazing about Ninja Gaiden 20 years later. And so there you have it. That's a look back at 20 years of the original Ninja Gaiden. And it's sad that Team Ninja hasn't made a new one yet. I'm pretty sure they want to, but the higher-ups probably don't want it to be so. I mean, the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection didn't really sell that good from what I was told, and unfortunately, when you look at things like that, companies are just not going to want to make a game that didn't sell well before. I mean, I plan on making a video about that in the future, about games and selling points and such, but it is sad because I think Ninja Gaiden 4 would do very well in the world that exists of games today, but we can only hope. I mean, I have been pioneering and talking about this game non-stop for 20 years. I love the original Ninja Gaiden in the arcade and obviously on the NES, but this was where the series really took shape for me. And, well, in the future, I really hope that they give it a shot, because I think this is another series that deserves a strong comeback. Even if Team Ninja isn't the one making it, right? Maybe you make it like the OG NES ones or something like that, kind of revive the series in that aspect. Who knows? Anything's possible, but for 20 years, I've been playing this game, and I absolutely love it. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, well, we talked about other versions a little briefly. What other ones should we try out? What's the definitive way to play this game? And to be honest, I don't really think there's a definitive way to play it. I think from the 3 options that you have to play it, any way you do choose to play, you're going to have a blast with this. I mean, if you play this game, right, you're going to have fun. Despite the flaws that the game does have, you're going to have a blast. But the problem is, you're going to need an OG Xbox to play it on. That's just sadly how it is. It's locked to that console. And if you want to play Ninja Gaiden Black, well, that's a little bit easier because you can buy that online, or you can buy it digitally. I don't even think it's available digitally anymore. But either way, should probably check on that. But you can play that version. You can buy the disc, pop it into your newer Xboxes, and you can play it just fine. Or if you want to play the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, then you just get that, and you'll be able to play Ninja Gaiden Sigma, which is a lot of people's preferred way to play this game because there's so much added to that game. There's also a lot that was taken from it too, so it's interesting. I guess if you're a purist and you want to see what the game looks like when it first came out, then Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black are the way to go. But Ninja Gaiden Sigma, that's my preferred way to play them. But again, either way, you're gonna have fun. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day, right? So you guys have heard me ramble on long enough about this. I greatly appreciate y'all, and if you want to comment down below and tell me your memories of Ninja Gaiden, whether it's just this or the NES game or the later Ninja Gaiden games, please let me know down in the comments below. I'm always down to talk Ninja Gaiden because I just truly love this series, and from the friends I found from it and the people that I grew close to because of it, again, it's just a series that is near and dear to my heart. Also, I want to stop and say thank you guys for all the support that you've been giving the channel lately, because we've been doing really good here. I think a lot of people like the new structure and getting reviews back on the channel and the thumbnails, and there's going to be other portions that are coming out very soon. And the next review that comes out after this one is a big one for Capcom fans. It's a big 15th anniversary for a very interesting and special game in my personal opinion. So I cannot wait to share that, guys. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So again, thank you for all the love and support. That being said, please thumbs up and subscribe because it's free. And this day and age, free is a damn good thing. As always, everybody, thank you all for watching. I'm One Big Boss, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Have a good one. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you could give this video a thumbs up and a share, helps the channel out big time. Give me a follow on Twitter and Discord where I'm most active, links down below in the description. Also, I stream on Twitch, so if you'd like to see me play a bunch of new to retro games, well, click down below, give it a follow, greatly appreciate it. Till next time guys, be safe, and have a good one.